Welcome, my name is Scott. I'm from a company called Online Store Guys. We put this event on in conjunction with our video partners, Purple Monkey. The Purple Monkey guys in the room, they do corporate event training videos. They've got a wedding part of their business called Purple Ribbon. Jono, Tim, Mark, Ryan, put your hands up, guys. Talk to those guys if you need a video. Our sponsor this evening is PISA, which is Professional eBay Sellers Internet Conference. It has become the best e-commerce conference in the country. Phil is at the bar. If you put your hand up, Phil. He's the man that owns and runs it. It runs at the end of May on the Gold Coast each year. I highly recommend you guys coming. I'll be speaking there this year, running a roundtable. Kate has spoken there, I think the last 2 or 3 of them. I think Kate will be speaking at this one as well. All the heavy hitters in the e-commerce industry in Australia will be there, so definitely worth going to the Gold Coast for a couple of days. All right, so this event has gone through a bit of a name change. It was the Marble Chewing Conversations of Commerce and Brand. Dinesh gave us some feedback on that and we've quickly got rid of it. It's now called Online Offline, which is a bit more apt. The hashtag for this evening on Twitter and Instagram is Online Offline. The format for this evening is going to have a chat with Kate and we're going to talk for half an hour or so. Then we're going to have a break, give everyone a chance to refresh, and we'll come back and do a Q&A after the break. So anything that we touch on in the first half, if you want to hear more about that or that elicits a question, make a note of that. And we'll be taking a lot of questions after the break, so there'll be plenty of time for that. All right, so this evening's event, our guest is Kate Morris, and Kate started and runs a business called Adore Beauty. She is a Telstra Businesswoman of the Year in Victoria finalist. Part of her business called Foundation, which we'll speak in depth about later, won the Victorian Women's Business Innovation Award. She's been Adore is listed in one of the top 20 e-commerce businesses in the country by SmartCompany, and Deloitte listed Kate in their top 50 e-commerce people in the country as well. So probably no more qualified person in the country to talk about e-commerce, building a brand, and being in the makeup industry in general, being a woman in business, starting a business at 21. So I'd like to welcome Kate to the stage. So thank you.
Pleasure.
Excellent. So Kate has done much. You probably all read about it, I hope. We're going to talk initially about how you got started, why you started the business. So I'll set the scene. You are 20-ish. You've moved over from Launceston to go to university. You're doing law and you're working at a makeup counter. Then what?
You actually have to go back a little bit further. You have to go back to 1989. It was my year 6 leavers dinner, and my mum let me for the first time crimp my hair and wear frosty green eyeshadow. It's the 80s. It was all right.
We might be here for a while.
And that was when I fell in love with beauty. I felt like I was $1 million that night, and so that's when I really fell in love with it, and I've been a beauty junkie ever since. So I grew up in Launceston, which is a pretty dire place to be a beauty junkie. It's a lovely town, it's a fabulous town, but the shopping is grim, to say the least. And so I was forever, sort of tearing out pictures of magazines to, make my dad pick them up for me when he went to Melbourne, and so it was all a bit depressing. But yeah, got to Melbourne for uni. First started using the internet, which was 1997, I guess, and started thinking, oh gee, this online shopping thing, hell, that would have been good when I was in Launceston and not able to buy cosmetics. You'd be able to get whatever you like. That'd be great. I can't wait till someone does that here. That'll be awesome. And nobody did, and I would sort of spend all of my spare time looking up makeup websites in the US or the UK and mentally rearranging them and saying, oh no, they haven't put the ingredients on, and they should have put this here and they should have put that there. And at the same time, my part-time uni job was on the Clarence counter in very fetching red shoes, and whenever I told anybody what I did, everybody would sort of pull a face and go, oh God, I hate going in there. It's horrendous. The women are all scary and overly made up, and they're going to upsell me a bunch of stuff. And I just thought that was really sad, because
I just don't see you as a geisha girl on a makeup counter, but...
Believe it, it was true.
So the context, so this is 98?
Yeah, well, about 99 was when I decided I was going to do it. In the end, I'd sort of been banging on about this imaginary makeup site that I was going to build for so long, and my partner said to me, he said, look, are you going to stop talking about this or what? And I thought, well, or what? I'm going to give it a crack, and I'm going to go and I'm going to build it. So I was 21, pretty clueless, no money, no connections, no business experience, no business background. I was pretty sure I was going to go to university and I was going to get a good job, and that was my plan. So I'd never thought that I was actually going to start a business.
So how do you finance said business?
Well, that's the fun part. It's a weird thing, but banks just really are not interested in funding 21-year-old girls with no business experience to build stores on the internet in 1999. It's weird. So, look, I had to kind of beg and borrow. My parents didn't have any money because they were both social workers. So I ended up borrowing money from my boyfriend's parents, which...
How long had you been with said boyfriend at that point?
Oh, like a year.
Right.
Yeah, no, they were super about it, actually. They handed me the cheque and said, you know what, I've fully expected me to lose it, I think, but, you know, and not, you know, filthy rich people or anything like that, but they said, hey, gosh, you know, what a great learning experience, you know, this is going to be fabulous. So they loaned me $12,000, and that was enough to go and get a website built and buy some stock. So I started approaching brands, and they all said no, every single one. Every single one. Forget about it. They're like, honey, nobody's going to buy stuff on the internet because, you know, the internet was a fad and everybody was going to get over it really soon, and so they didn't need to do anything about it. So, but yeah.
So to give it a bit of landscape, in a pre-iPhone, pre-social media world, Amazon started in 97.
Pre-broadband world.
Pre-broadband.
I had to crawl under my desk and unplug the modem and plug the phone in. Yeah.
It's when you sent an email and you stood there and watched it go out before you left the room.
That's right.
So Amazon had only been rolling a year, maybe 2 years.
A couple of years, yep.
And you've gone asking banks, they've said no. You're talking to brands, I want to sell your stuff online. They're saying no.
Yeah.
You've got no brands, you've got a website, what do you do?
Well, I didn't even have a website because I couldn't get the website built without products to put on it. You know, it wasn't like, but, you know, I mean, you couldn't just get a shopping cart off the shelf the way that you can now. It's, you know, you had to actually custom build one, and to custom build one, you had to have products in it, because otherwise it didn't work.
Where did one go looking for a web developer in 1999?
Oh, God, you know, it was funny. I actually had our original web developer get in touch with me on LinkedIn the other day. He's like, oh, my God, I remember you. I'm like, oh, that's right. Nobody was building e-commerce websites, so I think we were probably the first one that they'd ever built. So a crew out of South Melbourne, I can't remember what they were called, but yeah, no, everything was built from scratch, so it was in Perl script. There was no back end. I had to create a text file to upload products into it. Yeah, nothing. It was pretty ugly.
No Magento, no Shopify, no Xcart, no iCommerce, none of those.
Nothing.
All right, so now you're getting a website somewhat built. Where the product's coming from?
Well, having the ideas for the website and sort of saying, hey, when it's built, this is what it will be like, and all the brands are saying, great, build us a website and show us. And so, I managed to find 2 teeny tiny brands that would actually take my money. And that was the thing that I just really hadn't anticipated, was that I was going to these brands saying, let me give you money in exchange for product, and they were saying no, because that's the cosmetics industry, and the internet wasn't a place where one bought cosmetics, and so that was not appropriate. But look, I found 2 brands that would say yes, and so I'm like, okay, great, that's enough to get the website built. Went back to everybody else, 5 more said yes. So then I had 7. Went back to everybody else again, and then just rinse and repeat for 15 years, really.
Did they give you reasons why they didn't want to sell on the web? Was it, we can't merchandise it, we can't do prestige? Or was it just a straight no because we think it's a novelty fad?
There was so many different varieties of no. I think I've heard every variety of no that there is in the world in my life. One of the more spectacular versions of no was I'd approached one brand and they'd faxed me their response because they didn't have email. So, and they'd faxed me their response, and the response was that I'd offended them by even wasting their time with my proposal, and that it was completely inappropriate, and that nobody would ever buy things from my online store. And then 14 pages thermal paper rolling out of the fax of thumbnails of magazine covers that their brand had been in.
I miss thermal paper. Which was the first big brand you got, like a name international brand? And how did that come about?
Look, probably the first one that anybody would know was Bloom. And that was maybe 2002.
This is Natalie Bloom's
This is Natalie Bloom, yeah. So I met with Natalie. Natalie actually gave me some very good advice early on. She was really sweet. I walked in there and I had, you know, my great idea and told her all about it. And she said, look, usually when people would come to see me with a retail proposal, they would bring a proposal. I went, right, got it. I'll do that next time. You know, she took my meeting again, and I went in there with my proposal, and she said, "Yep, all right, I'll give you a crack." And so, yeah, that was the first brand that anybody would have known.
How did you market a business way back then?
Well, look, I didn't have any money to do it, and there wasn't, you know, there was no sort of Facebook or anything like that. Does anybody remember news groups? Yeah. So there was a news group called alt.fashion, which where people would talk about you know, makeup and that sort of thing from time to time, and so just I would sort of go there and participate and just, you know, be helpful, not talk about my products or, you know, be a shill or anything like that, but to just be on there and be helpful and to have my web address in, you know, in the in my little signature there. And so a few people would from time to time say, hey, you know, what's your website? Or they'd go and look at that. Back then the dollar was at 52 cents, so I actually had a reasonable amount of US customers, and so I built it a little bit from word of mouth there. But I mean, when you have no marketing money, you've pretty much got to do it off word of mouth. And so I thought, well, the one thing that I can do is try and make the customer experience so good that people will need to actually tell their friends about, you know, hey, I bought this thing on the interwebs, and it was really great. So, you know, I hand wrapped everything with tissue paper and raffia, and put a little chocolate in each order, which we still do, not the raffia, but the chocolate. Just to try and make it so great that people would want to tell a friend.
So for the first year, how many sales were you doing a day or a week?
I think in the first year we did $36,000.
And the website cost you 17?
Website cost me about 8.
Right, okay.
Yep.
How were you feeding yourself at that point?
I was living off AusStudy and pity, mainly.
Nice.
I always say if you want to start a business, just get used to living on rice and beans for a little bit.
The ramen diet is very cool amongst the startup crowd now.
So hot right now.
You were there.
Those little packet mee goreng noodles, yeah.
All right, so fast forward, when do you felt like you got some momentum? How did that happen? Give us those times.
Look, in 2002, I won an award for customer service, or the business won an award for customer service because of this, you know, the great personalised service that we were providing. And so that was, I think, $10,000 cash, and so that was enough for my partner to quit his job and work in the business with me. And so, like, now there were 2 of us, and we were, you know, managing to take a very small wage by then. Pretty grim, but, you know, living off it. 2004, I actually went and got business premises. So little shop in Nicholson Street in North Carlton, which we lived above for about a year, and then outgrew that, and then had to move out, and then took the shop next to it, and then took the shop next to it after that. So look, there was never any sort of one time where you're like, wow, now it's really taking off. It was just, you know, very slow incremental growth. And then sometimes there'd be, you know, a year here or there where it'd scoot up a little bit higher, and then it, you know, the growth might sort of steady off a little bit and then scoot up a little bit higher again. You
mentioned your business partner.
Yeah.
You're the face of the business.
Yeah.
Not much value having a guy as a face of makeup brand, I guess. How did you're the face? How did you guys come together, and how does the business relationship work then, and maybe fast forward to now? Sure.
No, look, we just one of the ways that you know, having had advice from James's family, are all involved in sort of family motels and that kind of thing, and so one of the things they said early on is, look, make sure that you pick areas of responsibility and don't step on each other's toes all the time, because that's when problems happen. And so we divvied it up pretty early on, and he is, you know, phobic of having to do things like this, so that's my job. But yeah, picked it out earlier on. I mean, that was sort of, you know, the days of Natalie Bloom and Poppy King, where, you know, from a PR perspective, it's certainly much better to have a cosmetic company that has that has a young female face to it. And so it's like, all right, well, that's one of the assets that we already have and we don't have to pay for it, so let's use that. Let's use that.
And you've been the face of the brand, but you also, I'm guessing you're exactly your target market as a customer. How helpful has that been? So much easier. I don't know how people sell products that they can't get excited about. I always think that must be really hard work. I couldn't do it. I couldn't sell, plumbing supplies or anything like that, because it's just, I don't know what you want. I wouldn't know the first thing about what someone buying plumbing supplies would want. But what I do know is beauty products, and that's what I love. So for me, it's very easy to be passionate about that, and it's a very easy way, I think, to create authenticity in your business. You don't have to fake, authenticity if you really do care about what you're doing, and you really do care about the products, and you really do care whether people get the right things that make them happy. So for me, it makes everything a billion times easier. And it's fun. It's fun, we get lipsticks and, new fragrances arrive and everybody squeals, and it's good. It's good fun. So mid-2000s, what's the competitive landscape look like? Did you have many other competitors? Were they startups like you, or were they big brands dabbling?
No big brands dabbling at that point. No department stores. Some would argue there's still no department stores.
So had D-Store been and gone?
Actually, no, D-Store were around, yes. D-Store were around. They didn't really do cosmetics.
I've just totally aged myself now, haven't I?
Yeah.
All right, forget that.
No, it's cool. No, I liked it. So, yeah, D-Store. There was Strawberry Net, I guess, in a very, very early phase. There was starting to be a couple of little salons around the place that were sort of setting up online stores with just bits and pieces. But, look, early to mid-2000s, crickets, nothing. Yeah. So
it's momentum. When did you start to feel that you're really gaining momentum?
Let me see, 2007, 2008, things started to really pick up, and then they started to really flatten off for a couple of years after that.
That would be the financial crisis?
Well, look, I don't actually think it was. I mean, that would have been an easy thing to blame it on, but I don't think so. I think it was, look, there were a lot more competitors starting to come online at that point, around sort of 2009, 2010, and a lot more and a lot more price aggression. And I guess I'd sort of made a decision that no, we were a premium business and we weren't going to be about discounting and that sort of thing. But in effect, even if it's a prestige brand, if someone else is selling the exact same product, it does become a bit of a commodity. And so why should I expect a customer to pay 25% more to shop from me? I wouldn't do it. And so, yeah, at a certain point we decided, all right, well, if this is the market price of these sorts of products, then I believe if price is not an issue, then customers will choose us. And we implemented a price match policy, and yeah, that turned out to be true. And then the business just went off like the clappers. And so for the last 3 years, I guess, we've been growing at an average of 65% year on year. So, wow. Yeah, sometimes more, sometimes less, but yeah, that's...
So we're still pre-social media. Social media's starting to kick in.
Yeah.
You had your version of social media before it was a term. Let's talk a little bit about that.
So before there was, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that sort of stuff, I set up a forum on the website where people could talk about cosmetics and also just, get to know each other and chit-chat about their lives and that sort of thing. And it actually created really quite a strong community. And at one point it had, I don't know, like 60,000 members or whatever. And it actually got quite big. And it actually got so big that there would sometimes be these huge storming bitch fights, really, in the general discussion section. There'd be these factions, and it was this whole thing. And to me, it was just all a bit horrific, because all of this stuff was happening under my logo and under my banner, and these were my customers, and they'd be saying, she's broken the forum rules, you have to ban her, or she's broken the forum rules, you have to ban her. I'm like, I don't want to ban any of you. You're all my customers. Can you just behave yourselves? God. So, yeah, I actually ended up having to kill it a little bit by shutting down the general discussion section, because that was where all the trouble was. And what happened then basically was most of the people who were very loyal users of the forum got up in arms about it and moved off to Facebook. So it's probably one of the things I would try and do differently. I think if I had my time over, is try and find a way to actually manage that without killing it, because you do see other businesses that do very, very well based on that kind of social following, and I feel like we've had to kind of start again to build up that community.
So you're a social media manager before there was a term. I mean, resource-wise, how much of your time or whose time?
Well, this is the thing. It takes up a huge amount of time because, if something happens and you're not onto it, the second it flares up, oh my God, things really get nasty.
We had the girls from Frank in at the last event. And they've had huge issues around that because the volume is so big. They've got to be monitoring it all the time.
Yeah.
And
look, it takes a lot of resource to manage a community. People are sort of like, oh, great, I'll set up a community and that will feed my business. And it's like, well, yeah, it will, but it's also a hungry, angry baby and needs a lot of looking after. Yeah, it's hard work. It's hard work to do it.
All right, let's jump into the tech side of things.
Sure.
So first website, how long did that last for?
3 years.
And then what made you need something else, and what did you build it on, or was it still hand coding from blank canvas?
No, there was sort of starting to be some shopping carts around then. There was one called Commercis, I think. But we had it very, very heavily customised to the point where it was sort of like a lurching Frankenstein, really. It didn't really resemble anything that it was based on. Look, the first website we had, I mean, you couldn't do anything with it. Like, it didn't even have any back end. All it, when there was an order, it just emailed the orders to me. There was nowhere you could log into to, kind of check anything. So, so this new one had a back end and you could, log products into it and all that kind of thing. I thought it was the best thing ever when we first built it, and then, then it wasn't.
What came next? And what did that offer from functionality standpoint?
Oh, look, we stayed. Look, it was really a semi-bespoke platform, but we stayed on that for maybe 7 years. Tacking bits on and trying to fix bits, and until we couldn't anymore. We couldn't even find anybody to work on it anymore because it was built in ASP, and there just weren't any ASP developers, and no developers that we approached actually wanted to touch it because it was just so much legacy code and so much had been mucked with, and in the end they just went, I think you need to re-platform. So 2010 we decided to re-platform. We moved to Magento.
So you're on Magento now.
And
how did you find developers? You told me the story of you had a company that built it. We won't name them.
No.
But you ended up going somewhere else. How and why?
Look, I've been through over the years 8 sets of developers, maybe. I think maybe 8, 7 or 8. I don't know. It's a lot. Look, you do outgrow things. You do outgrow particular developers. I mean, sometimes, when we had the initial re-platform onto Magento, that was actually really horrendous. So it's just the thing wouldn't stay up. You got 50 people on there and it had fallen a heap, and we sort of spent the next 3 years basically trying to patch it up, while we could try and build something else. And so the new version finally launched 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
3 weeks ago. Yeah.
And you've got devs out of New Zealand that build that for you?
Devs out of New Zealand, yeah.
Yep. And that was a relationship they started doing some stuff for you and then ultimately pitched for all your work?
Yeah. I'd sort of brought them in just to try and help us with the performance of the previous build, because, like I said, just wouldn't stay up. And in the end, I had mentioned to them that I was looking for another developer, and I'd sort of gotten tenders and whatever from other developers, and they said, look, what do we have to do to get your work? And I said, well, here's what you have to do. I'll put you on a 3-month trial. Let's get you to do some stuff. Let's see how we go. So
even in the, let's call it the modern era, the last couple of years, where platforms are much better and much stronger, you rolled out a new part of that website last year and then rolled back. Can you tell us a little bit about the trauma associated with that and kind of why?
Good times. Software is hard. This is one thing I can tell you after 15 years. I wish I could tell you all the secrets of success for building a great, smooth website where everything goes off perfectly. I don't know them. If anybody knows them, please tell me. It was February actually. So I had put more work into testing and retesting and this site than I ever have into anything ever before. We actually ran it in live beta for about 4 weeks just to make sure that, you know, people were going to be able to use it and that conversion was going to be comparable and the basket size was going to be comparable. And I invited my 1,500 best customers personally via email to go and have a look at the new site and to play around with it and tell me what they think. I answered a lot of emails. People were very forthcoming with feedback, which was fantastic. We learned a lot. Everybody said it was great. I'm like, great, excellent, we'll go live. Go live, crash. Damn it. So, yeah, look, we're all, I mean, you can't tell, you can load test until you're blue in the face, and we did all of that, but you really can't tell what's going to happen to a site unless you've got, you know, your whole regular host of real live customers arriving in all the ways in which they arrive. Otherwise, you know, your tests don't really mean anything. So, yeah, so we actually rolled back. So we kept the new site up for maybe a day and a half trying to fix it on the fly. In the end, I just said, no, we've rolled back, plan B. And so we did, and that was a bit devastating. But look, better than, I mean, the good thing was is that this time we actually had the alternative to be able to do that. When we first moved on to Magento, there was not really a good enough rollback plan. It would have been too hard to actually try and get it back.
The concept of set and forget doesn't really exist with lots of moving parts.
Oh, it doesn't, and you know, and it actually gets harder and harder the bigger your site gets and the more complex it gets. And it actually, and particularly when it's your business's entire income. You know, when you're an online store, it's not like you've got, you know, a whole swag of bricks and mortar stores that can take up the slack for you. You don't. It's actually, it's like, I figure it's kind of like that trick where, you know, you see people like wear a table fully set and they whip the tablecloth out and nothing moves. We have to be able to do that, but now the table is set for 100 people and you have to be able to put the new tablecloth under without anybody noticing or disturbing anybody's meal.
I'm going to steal that. I like that.
Go for it.
So give these guys an idea of volume. So how many SKUs do you have?
We have active SKUs about 9,500.
Transactions a day, ballpark?
Oh, look, anywhere from 500 to 1,000. Just kind of depends. Yeah.
And inventory, how do you manage that? Do you guys use third-party warehousing? Do you pick and pack on sites?
We pick and pack on site. We have, from all the brands we have about coming up to 140 brands, I think, and that's from about 50 to 60 suppliers. And some of them are reliable and some of them are not. And so it's drop shipping is just not even possible. So yeah, we warehouse all on site, pick and pack there. We had to do quite a big overhaul of our back-end software a couple of years ago, just basically in anticipation of the growth, realising that we weren't going to be able to manage the inventory otherwise as it grew. So now it's going pretty good.
What do you use to manage inventory?
There's a product called Kudos.
Yep.
Yeah, based out of Port Melbourne actually. Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, that integration was fun too.
Nice. Don't be scared, kids. Don't be scared.
Be scared.
Okay, so Findation. Can
Yep.
you tell people what Findation is? I'm sure all the blokes in the room
Sure.
using it daily.
Sure. Yeah, every day. So Findation is basically an online shade matcher for foundation. Foundation being the beige stuff that you put on your skin, just for the guys. So basically it needs to be the exact same colour as your skin. It's pretty much impossible to buy a new foundation online because it's just, 50 shades of beige. And you can't choose. You can't choose. And so we were faced with the problem every day of customers calling us up and saying, hey, I want to buy this new YSL foundation, but I don't know what colour I should get. And we'd be like, running off to the tester cupboard, trying to match it up. And I thought, oh, God, somebody should build like a site where you could just go in and, it would match you up like with whatever product, you were looking for with the shade that you've used before. And of course there wasn't one. So I decided I was going to build it.
Groundhog Day.
Someone
should build it.
Someone should build it. It might be me. So I actually partnered up with my brother on that. He's a Ruby on Rails developer, and he did all the actual coding for it. He did a pretty kick-ass job, I think.
So to clarify, so colours are like sizes. Someone's Someone's extra large in a t-shirt might be
exactly
much bigger or much smaller,
or
and it's hard for anyone to know.
Paint colours is probably a better analogy. So someone's Arctic white might be the same as, someone else's, winter frost or something like that. The names don't mean anything. There's no coding system. Every shade is called something different in every single brand, and there are 24,000 shades available worldwide so far. That's just the ones that we have in our database.
How many users in the foundation? Is it a community? Is it a database? How does it work?
Well, the way it works is that people go to Foundation and they put in the shades that they know that match their skin. And so then it works kind of like a recommendation and says, okay, well, if you wear these 3 shades, then we know that all these 3 shades are similar. And so we have a custom algorithm that actually creates a relationship then between those 3 shades. So if someone else comes to the site and they put in just one, we know we can say, well, you can probably wear these other 2. So that's how it works. As far as I know, there isn't anything else like it. But yeah, so it's not a community as such. I mean, it's got its own website, but it's also an e-commerce plugin. So anybody that has an online store that sells Foundation can actually, get sort of as a software as a service, a little button to stick on their site that, allows customers to match their foundation shades in whatever product it is that they're looking at.
And you're happy for other sites to use it? You think the more it's used, the better?
Oh, they have to pay for it.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course.
If they're paying me for it, yeah, sure.
We're not a charity. So Foundation wins the Vic Business Innovation Award last year.
Yeah, the Telstra Business Women's Award for Innovation. Yep.
So you got on stage, and what did you tell the fine people? What was the first thing that came out of your mouth?
I said, I just met a Dado. Andrew Dado was hosting it. Yeah, it was exciting.
The Dado brothers were big in the
They were,
90s?
I think so,
Right.
yeah.
So the last 6 months or a year, you're doing more speaking gigs, and how does that work for you as the evolving face of the brand? Has a good chunk of your customer base evolved with you?
Look, I think so. I mean, we're still, our major customer base, or our main sort of demographic is the 25 to 35s, and unfortunately I'm starting to fall just a little bit outside of that now, but, whatever, don't tell anybody. I think so. I think so. It's an interesting thing. I mean, doing the speaking gigs and stuff for me, I really enjoy, being the face of the brand and being able to get out there and talk to people, because it really is the best way for people to connect with Adore Beauty and with what we do. But I'm also actually trying to be the CEO as well. So that's sometimes challenging because I don't always actually get to do as many things as I would like, or I'm always sort of weighing up the fact that, okay, well, I can either do this speaking gig or I can, get these meetings done, or I'm always weighing it up against how much other work I have. So yeah, sometimes people ask me to, hey, fly to Adelaide and talk to startup founders for a day. I'm like, I would love to do that. I just can't do it. Yeah,
Percentage of business domestically in Australia and overseas, and where overseas?
It's about 95% Australia at the moment. It's increasing a little bit more now that the dollar's dropping a little bit. New Zealand would be our next biggest market, followed by the US. Yeah, it's just hard to find things that are hard to find.
More competitors coming into the marketplace? How do you...
Oh, sure, all the time, yep.
What do you do with grey imports?
Well, look, I mean, you try and educate customers that, look, it's not the same thing. It's just, walking into a department store, it's could have been sitting on a dock somewhere for 5 years. It's, you don't actually know where it's come from. It might be real, might not be. And you are going to be putting it on your face or near your eyes and that kind of thing. And it's look, some people will do anything.
Scare the hell out of them, don't you?
No. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's just everybody makes a choice as to what they're happy with, and if people want to sort of save $10, but take that risk, then cool, that's okay. But I think too, prices in Australia are a lot more competitive now. We've worked really hard with our brands to actually, I've been banging on about them for years, going, hey guys, the dollar's at 98 cents. You can't have this big price difference. It's not okay. You've got to actually drop your prices down, because I don't get to control it. If I'm buying from a brand, I can't just go and buy from a different distributor. They won't let me. So it's kind of the way it works in cosmetics, and so we don't get a lot of say in it. But they've all actually done quite a lot of work to sort of, what they call it, price harmonisation, I think is the the official term, and so it's actually a lot more competitive now. Most of the time, we're cheaper than the likes of Strawberry Net and that kind of thing. Anyway, yeah. And we're local and awesome.
You've never had a store? Any plans to do the physical store?
We did have a store. We had one from 2004 to 2011. It was teeny tiny, 25 square metres. At the time, it was helpful. To just, because a lot of brands would just kind of freak out that, I'd say, oh, I want to stock your product. Oh, yeah, where's your store? And I'd say, well, it's online. They would be like, what? I'd say, no, it's, on the internet. On the internet? And it was just easier if I could say it's in North Carlton. They were like, they could get their heads around that. They didn't mind that we had an online store as well, but it was just the fact that it kind of made us a real thing.
Trust.
It was just a bit of a trust thing, but then it got to the stage where it was sort of taking up a lot of resource to staff it. It wasn't a huge revenue stream, and it got to the point where, okay, well, the only brands that it would help us get are ones where we would need a store the size of David Jones, so we closed it. Yeah.
So the big trend now, a few years later, is that Warby Parker and Birchbox are starting to open stores.
Yep.
Are you any thoughts of revisiting that?
Look, it's certainly not on my immediate. I mean, I wouldn't rule it out, but I think those sorts of stores, they're about discovery. And I think if I were going to do a store, it would have to be, about that kind of thing. And the other thing too is, I mean, the product range that we have now, like there's no store in Australia that has that much stuff in it. Like not David Jones, like we've got more stuff than all of them. And so it's just like, okay, well, where would you put a store that size? You'd have to be, you'd have to work out some way of doing it, sort of on a much smaller little kind of discovery format.
Have you dabbled with your own brand at all?
No.
Thoughts
No.
on doing it? No. You're a retailer.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Look, there's lots of cool brands out there. I think if I ever came across a product that I just could not find or that nobody was doing right, then maybe I would look at it. But it's a whole different skill set. Actually manufacturing something and then having to go out there and build that brand, because people are very brand oriented when it comes to cosmetics. You've got to do a lot to convince somebody to switch brands of moisturiser. There would have to be a compelling reason for me to do it. Yeah.
All right. We are going to break. The bar is over there. It will be open. There is food about to come out. We're going to break for about 10 minutes. Think of those questions. We will come back and have a Q&A. I'm going to limit questions to one per person. Short, sharp questions are really good. Think about it before you get up. We've had a few ramblers in the past. I don't have to shut you down. Come back with a Q&A. We will do that for a good chunk of time, and then we'll do a wind up and some thank yous. All right. See you in 10 so minutes. Okay, so question and answer. Kate's had a world of experience, entrepreneurship through to e-commerce. Again, just one question per person if you could. We are going to run one mic. If you want to keep the mic. Elise, do you want to, I'll give you the mic and you can run it out to the audience. Questions, who'd like to start? Josh Rowe. Why exactly did I pick you being over there? Keep it brief, Josh. Keep it brief.
I used to run a... no. Hello? We're on. What's your biggest source of new customers today, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when you started, whatever, just back to the start, just do it in 5-year blocks.
Okay. Look, when I started, it was definitely just probably word of mouth and, news groups, a bit of PR maybe. Let me see. Look, organic SEO is all, organic search traffic's always been pretty strong. For us, let me think. Pay-per-click, like AdWords and search engine marketing is pretty big for us at the moment. But we're also doing some fun stuff with YouTube, doing some sponsored blogger posts and some really neat little pre-rolls, which are pretty cute. What else is going well?
Got a car going around Sydney right now.
So there was this thing for Fashion Week, which was not my idea, it was the PR company's idea, but yes, there was sort of a decaled Fiat and hot men with like beards and Adore Beauty t-shirts handing out juice in front of Fashion Week. So apparently we got kicked out by security the second day, so that's good. Great branding. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
I work in UX, so I'm just curious what you do for user experience.
As in on-site? User experience?
User experience as in like the design process where you're doing research about your audience and you're doing usability testing, things like that.
Sure. So before building this latest version of the site, it actually took us probably 18 months for the whole process of actually scoping out what it was going to be and how it was going to be designed. And it actually started right at the start with a pretty massive customer survey. Basically inviting customers to tell us what they did like and what they didn't like about our current site, what they found difficult, what they really enjoyed using, just to make sure we didn't accidentally scrap any features that they loved. And so the design brief was done based off that feedback. So the designs were done, and that was again run through another round of customer feedback. A little bit of brand feedback too, because for me, my brands are also my customers. Well, my key stakeholders anyway. I have to make them happy. So let me see, and then look, it's customer feedback is something that we sort of do as part of everything. Like I said, the whole new site was actually live beta tested through Optimizely for about 4 weeks. So we probably don't get to do as much sort of individual element split testing as I would like to. Unfortunately, my wish list always exceeds my resources, but yeah, that's sort of the main bulk of it.
Jim?
Are you doing any Facebook advertising at the moment?
Yes.
And how's that going? Sorry, supplementary stuff.
Look, different. It's an interesting thing, Facebook. It's usually, and when I had sort of done other forms of paid advertising, your key measure of success is, did you get a sale out of it, and how much was the sale, and how many of them did you get? Facebook, is a little more difficult to sort of expect direct sales off. But it does drive traffic, and it does keep people in touch with your brand, and it can introduce new people to your brand. And so we're experimenting a lot with different kinds of content, some video content, some different user-generated content, bunch of different stuff, just to basically kind of play around with and find out what things work and what things don't work. And the good thing about it is that you get a pretty quick measure of it. If a bunch of people like your ad or comment on your ad, it's like, hey, people are responding to this, great. Even if they're not clicking through straight away and buying something, that at least it's something that your community wants to see and is interested in seeing more of. So we measure the attribution for Facebook a little bit differently. But yeah, no, we do a fair bit. We do some retargeting and that kind of thing on there as well. Yeah.
Pushing from this side of the room. The handsome gentleman at the door, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. What role has email marketing played in growing your business?
Email has been one of our biggest revenue driving channels for a few years, but I think it's getting harder and harder to make it work. No matter how much you segment, no matter how much you try and create customized content that's going to suit each subscriber, just because of the volume of emails that people get, even if people like your brand, and I know I do it, and I look at my own behaviour, and there's plenty of emails I get from brands that I like, but I just don't have time to read everything. And so it's getting harder and harder to get that cut through, and so we know we're not going to be able to rely on that going forward. So I certainly think, we've certainly been using social a lot more, just to try and sort of, interact with people as they go about their daily lives, and, maybe they'll see a new product that you've got styled up on Instagram or something like that, and often that can work better than sending it out in an email that, maybe only 30% of your customers will open. So look, it's still very strong, but you know, we know we're not going to be able to rely on it. Yeah.
Luke?
What's your investment been like in mobile, and where do you see that as a future tool for you?
So your question was, what's the investment been in mobile? Look, mobile is only getting bigger. Because of all this sort of, you know, drama of having to re-platform it and having an unstable base on which to build it, I think we first launched. So we use an adaptive approach, so that, yeah, if you open on a device with smaller resolution than whatever, then it automatically loads up a mobile style sheet, and that launched December 2013, so it was later than I would have liked. I knew we needed one about 2 years before we actually got one, but it's always the way. Look, it's become more and more an integral part of everything we do. So everything we do, we're like, hey, how does the landing page look for that on mobile? How does it, you know, whenever you're testing any EDMs, you know, how's the click-throughs on mobile? Does that code work on mobile? You know, is everything okay? So yeah, look at you. I mean, phones are driving about 30% of our traffic, and it's actually, you know, you look at it every year, up and up and up and up and up and up and up, and as phones get bigger too, I think it's only going to, you know, it's going to become more prevalent. I know I use mine a lot more. I got the new 6 or whatever it is that's got the biggest screen on it, but yeah, I think it's only going to go up. We haven't built an app or anything like that at that point. I think once a brand gets big enough that with a sort of service that people are using every week, then I think an app becomes more relevant. But yeah, at the moment, a mobile style sheet's working pretty good for us. Yeah.
Mergers, acquisitions, and venture capital.
Yes.
Have any of the big guys tried to buy you out? Has anyone tried to invest in your business? And can venture capital help grow your business faster than it currently is?
Yes, yes, and yes. So the question, do you want to repeat that?
It's just a question about venture capital and mergers and acquisitions. Do you think venture capital could play a pivotal role in your expansion? And has any of the other big guys, any of the big cosmetics labels tried to buy you out?
Yeah, and so the answer was yes to all of the above. Look, I was chatting with Scott a couple of days ago, and he said, oh, look, have a think about, you know, one of the questions I might ask you is, you know, if you had your time again, what would you do differently? Because, you know, it's been 15 years, it's a pretty long time in internet years, kind of like dog years. And so I don't know how old that makes me, and it's a bit horrifying, but I think when I think about would I have done anything differently, I don't think I could have done anything differently without money. And so I think that's maybe the only thing that I would change. It would be maybe to have tried to get some, you know, sooner, so that I didn't have to try and do the whole growth story on cash flow. But, you know, whether I would have gotten any, I don't, you know, there wasn't really that much of a venture capital scene in sort of the early to mid 2000s, and I don't know whether anyone would have given any to me. So I don't know, it worked out the way it worked out. It probably could have gone quicker, but also too, I mean, e-commerce took a long time to pick up in Australia, a long time. For years and years and years and years, I would still be meeting people who would be like, oh, the internet, oh no, I've never bought anything online. And you don't meet those people anymore, but that's only quite recently, really just in the last couple of years. So, you know, maybe we couldn't have grown any quicker, I don't know. Yeah.
Charles.
How are you going? This has been really cool. Quick question for some guys in here that are maybe thinking about starting an online business. You've talked about lots of technology and lots of platforms. What sort of struggles have you had with integration along the way?
I hate integration. It's the worst. Look, it's, you know, software is hard, technology is hard, integrations are the hardest bit. There's so many moving parts, and particularly once, you know, your site gets more complex and more busy and you have more requirements, integration is not fun. I think anybody that's doing anything in e-commerce at the moment to make integration easier is onto a good thing, because it's really hard. Look, I was talking to someone the other day who said to me, look, integration can be easy provided you don't customise anything ever. So if you're going to use vanilla Magento and not do anything to it, then yeah, great, you're going to have a good time. But you know, you're going to have a site that looks like.
And do you still have silos within your business?
Not really. It's a pretty flat structure at the moment, so it's all just kind of one big open plan office, and we're all in together. No, it's still pretty flat. It's sort of an interesting stage for the business, because it's sort of getting to that. It's kind of this awkward, it's an awkward 15-year-old. It needs to be just kind of a little bit bigger. That it actually needs some more management in there for the different areas. So think about hiring a CTO, by the way, if anyone's got any good referrals. Just putting it out there. So. Sorry. Oh, you're putting your hand up. Great. She's like, oh, pick me.
CTO Jane, what would you like?
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Decline the CTO role, actually, Kate. What I was going to ask, and I'm sorry, I hope that I haven't sort of not noticed this, but do you have your own home brand of product line?
No, we don't.
And sorry, I missed
I don't either, Jane, no.
Are you thinking about bringing one out?
No.
Sorry, thanks.
Oh, actually, well, no, that's not quite true. No, we did do a collaboration. We've done, looking at a couple of little product collaborations. So we did one to celebrate the launch of the new website and our 15th birthday, which is with Kessa Black, which is a really cool little Melbourne nail polish brand. So we had them do up a set of 3 colours in shades that actually match the colour palette of our new site. They're really cute. So you can buy those. You should. But that's about the extent of it. So we maybe look to collaborate with other brands.
Talk about the candles. Right. Charles.
Hello, Kate. You
Hey.
seem to actually have a really good understanding of your customers to a point where you actually contacted 1,500 of them, you said?
Yeah, 1,500. Yeah.
And we just
I
wondering...
got a lot of emails that day.
Yeah, like individual emails. That's great of it.
Yeah.
What will be the best way for you to actually have an understanding of who your target audience is? Who visit your website? Is it through the database that you get from sales, or like how do you do it?
As in, how do we analyse our customer
analyze
base?
the customer base, yes.
Oh, look, we do surveys from time to time. We actually had some pretty hardcore customer base analysis done recently by a data company in Sydney. That was pretty awesome. Told us a lot. But it also told us a lot of stuff that we kind of already knew anyway. Look, there's any number of ways that you can do it. I mean, it's pretty easy to find a little bit out about your customers by, you can look at your Facebook insights, and so at least you can see who your Facebook customers are. It tells you a lot. Ask them and offer them something for telling you. But people will tell you a lot if you ask. Yeah.
Gentlemen in the chat.
What do you do on the customer retention front?
So for customer retention, the best thing that you can do for customer retention is to be awesome. People ask me from time to time about, are you going to do like a loyalty card or like have points and that kind of thing? And I thought, you know what, I look in my wallet and I look at how many loyalty cards I have for competing brands, and I think, well, clearly I'm not loyal to any of them. It's kind of just a way to track your data. So I don't think loyalty is around, points. I think retention for us anyway, I mean, look, there's a lot of things that we do to sort of get back in touch, a lot of automated stuff to get back in touch with people who haven't ordered from us for a little while, or for customers who look like they're starting to churn, and there's all that kind of stuff. But really the best thing that you can do is deliver them a really good experience every single time and actually live up to your promises every single time. And if on the rare occasion that you don't, God, fix it, overcompensate, do whatever you have to do to make it up to that customer to keep them coming back. And if you do that, retention, God, it's a hell of a lot easier. You don't have to have hardcore loyalty programs where people love you. I mean, Apple doesn't have a loyalty program. People keep buying Apple products. Be awesome. Phil.
They say the best paying job in the industry at the moment is data analysts.
Yeah.
So,
believe it.
And we all hear about big data. So what plans do you have into the future looking at big data and trying to get the best out of it for the business?
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. No, look. Yeah. No, look. There's some cool stuff. There's some cool stuff that we'll be doing, but yeah, I can't actually tell you about any of it. Sorry.
Moving right along, that was all for Jim.
You mentioned Optimizely earlier and
Yeah.
those sorts of tools.
Yep.
Ruslan Kogan, I think it was last year at Phil's conference at Pisa, said that he's tried all these different conversion analysis tools and all the rest of it, but he said the best conversion tool that he has is being cheap.
Yeah.
Did you, when you mentioned and you use those tools?
Yes.
Did you get enough out of them, or did you find that there are other things that you could be doing that you didn't need the tools for?
Ruslan is correct on that point. I mean, the best, because you can look at conversion optimization, they'll tell you all sorts of stuff about making your buttons different colours and, all that kind of thing. The best thing that you can do to optimise conversion is make people want to buy stuff. For us, free shipping made a massive difference to the business, and we implemented that about a year, coming up on 2 years ago. Massive difference. Forget about your button colour, be better. Be more competitive, that's what helps, yeah.
Talk about the psychology of going to free shipping.
Yeah.
Do you have it free shipping over 50, over 100?
Yeah. So we had for a while free shipping over 99, which is great, does good things for your basket size, all that kind of stuff, but the sense that we got, or that we'd see people talking about on our forum or in other places, is like, oh yeah, I'm kind of saving up a list for an Adore Beauty order, but then I went into Maya today and I bought this, that and the other thing, and so it was kind of putting a barrier in people's minds that they couldn't shop from us unless they needed more than $100 worth of stuff. And look, when you're competing against the Strawberry Nets and whatever of the world, people really hate paying for shipping. It's this psychological thing, and they don't see any value in it, and they don't want to pay for it. They'll maybe pay for Express sort of as an upgrade, if they've decided to order already, and they're like, oh, actually, yes, I would like that in 3 hours. But yeah, paying for just to have it delivered to you, they consider that that's kind of part of shopping online, and therefore they should have it for free. And so, looked at sort of trying to split test it, having sort of different banners on the site that offered either displaying or not displaying banners on the site that had free shipping with a code or that kind of thing. But that was really split testing a free shipping promotion. And that's a different thing to making it a core part of, USPs and what you're doing every day. And so in the end, we just sort of thought, okay, well, what's the single biggest thing we could do to really light a cracker under this business? And free shipping. So we sort of worked out the numbers and worked out how much of a sales lift we'd need to get, and felt a little bit sick and thought, well, look, what's the worst thing that can happen? Which is sort of my favourite technique for managing that sort of feeling a little bit sick, is, look, what's the worst thing that can happen? What's the worst thing that can happen? Okay, well, we have to roll it back in 3 months' time, and we have to say to everybody, sorry, we tried it, it was too expensive, we couldn't do it. And yeah, look, for the first probably 2 weeks of going to free shipping, I just sat there at the analytics, looked at the analytics and thought, what have I done? I've done a terrible, terrible thing. And but just, I thought, right, no, I'm going to give it 30 days. I'm going to give it 30 days, and we're going to promote it a little bit more, that now we're offering it and that kind of thing. And look, yeah, sure enough, up and up and up and up and up and up and up. But it's expensive to do it. It's really expensive.
Question for you. You mentioned doing stuff with YouTube and video.
Yes.
Rollouts.
Yeah.
A little bit more about that.
Oh, sure. So we had this idea of sort of, trying to think, okay, where are the places where our customers are? And we thought, well, they're watching makeup tutorials on YouTube. How can we reach them there? And, put together some really neat little beauty tips, little animated ones. So they're sort of like, go onto our YouTube channel and you can check them out. But they're in that sort of like fashion illustration style. So sort of, a little pen and ink drawings. And there's one for, how to do under eye concealer, and another one for how to fake tan the backs of your hands. Is there? Yeah. It's made of, yours look very natural. Yeah. Yeah, so I had a couple of those done up, basically because, you know, everybody finds pre-rolls annoying, but we thought, okay, well, what if they weren't an ad, but they were actually telling you something useful, then maybe that would be better. And yeah, look, they're going off. They're getting really good view-throughs and, you know, introducing a lot more people to our brand, so I'm really pleased with them. Yeah, they're neat. Any more questions, guys? There was another one just here.
Yeah, just wondering on the size of your business now. So how many staff have you got, and what sort of numbers are you willing to share with us, I guess?
Yeah. There's like 27 staff. I think we have 900 square metres in Brunswick that we're sort of rapidly outgrowing. So looking at that and going, God, maybe get us through Christmas. Yeah, what else can I tell you? We were talking about order numbers per day, and it's between sort of 500 to 1,000, or, you know, a little bit more at Christmas. Yeah, it's not a particularly seasonal business. You know, it's pretty steady all year long. But yeah, up and up. Hey.
Hey. At what point, I suppose I'm assuming you've considered going OS overseas to bigger markets, or if not, why not? And if you have, what would be the tipping point to do that?
Look, I think if you were going to start a global cosmetics business, you wouldn't do it out of Australia, because the government likes to make it really, really difficult for you. So yes, I'd have to move if we were going to do that. Look, it's very challenging to do it with branded cosmetics, because everybody's got everything locked up in distribution agreements. I think only Net-a-Porter has come close to being able to do it, and the only brands that they can sell are really obscure ones that nobody's really heard of, because those are the only ones that don't have locked down territorial distribution agreements. So it would be difficult. I feel like we've got a lot more to do in Australia. Yeah.
Last question. Slightly over here.
Hello. I just wanted to know, besides things like price matching and free shipping, what do you do to compete with your price lines when they have their mass 40% off sale of blah blah blah?
Look, there's not a lot you can do against 40%, to be honest. We don't have a lot of brand overlap with Priceline, primarily for that very reason. I'll often say no to brands that are in Priceline, because it's just like, oh great, you know, it's going to be 40% off every other week. Yeah, great. It's a really good proposition. Look, there's Priceline are really the only ones doing it. Myer and DJs don't do a lot of discounting. There's not a lot of discounting at the prestige end. We do a little bit here and there, but it's mainly just like with coupons, and it's mainly to sort of specific customer segments or whatever. So we don't do a lot of it either. Yeah. You know, if it's a good product and, you know, you're getting free shipping and free samples, and, you know, there's always other extra goodies on the side as well. You know, it's a pretty good value proposition, and so most people are generally pretty happy with that. Once people get onto us, we have a very good retention rate. So yeah.
That brings us to a close. Thank you.
Pleasure.
You've given much. Round of applause for Kate. So we have some gifts for you. Okay, we have some gifts for other people. So Kate has donated a door prize. 3 door prizes. One is a gift pack, and there's also 2 $50 off vouchers. For the main door prize? No. Siobhan, are you still here? You have to be in the room to win, and she is. Well done. $50 gift voucher at Adore Beauty. Angus Booker. Now there is a man that absolutely could use some of your work, and $50 won't cover it. Susan Booker will be the big winner out of this. And our last winner?
Mike Herman.
Mike Herman, are you still here? Well done. And for you, we have some fine Tasmanian champagne from your part of the world, or sparkling, I should say, and some glasses. And we have a gift, a nicely wrapped gift in Tiffany blue for the Purple Monkey guys. Jono, they're our video partners. We can open that later. Thanks very much, mate. Appreciate that. So guys, to wrap up, remember the PISA Internet Conference, well worth going. Kate will be there, I'll be there speaking as well. The discount voucher is, or the discount code is OSG100. It'll be live tomorrow, let's say mid-afternoon through to the end of the month. Highly recommend you going 27 through 29 May on the Gold Coast. Thank you again to the Purple Monkey guys. We are online store guys. We build e-commerce websites. Mike, the tall gentleman, Geordie, the handsome gentleman in the blue coat who just got back from Bali. Have a chat to us if you need anything from in e-commerce or a strategy need. Really thank you for coming. Spread the word. The video for this will be up in a couple of weeks. We'll let you know via then. If you enjoyed the evening, leave us a review on Meetup. If you didn't, we were going to have an event. The next event will be early June, just finalising who that speaker will be. They'll do well to top Kate. So again, thank you to Kate. Thank you for coming. The kitchen downstairs is open. The bar will be open for a little while. Hang around. A good chunk of us will hang around taking questions. And if you want something to eat, the kitchen is open. You can eat downstairs. So thank you again. We shall see you soon.